What is the Reddit of the day?
Teachers of Reddits, when is a time when you accidentally said something inappropriate in class and instantly regret?
I'm an assistant kindergarten teacher. I was helping a kid sound out how to spell the word grass or base or pass or something, and they recognized the last few sounds but couldn't figure out the beginning. So I said, okay, you have ass, but you need it to be grass. And I just didn't catch it, so I said, like, how can you turn ass into grass? And then I caught it and the head teacher caught it and we laughed out grasses off.
Ah yes, my ass of which is made of dirt. Has grown grass.
In a college music history class, to add a little humor, I referred to Henry Purcell's opera Dido and Aeneas as dildo and anus. That's the way I first heard our teacher refer to it in a music appreciation class.
I had a teacher, when talking about volcanoes, accidentally say big ass explosion instead of big ash explosion. It was 5th grade, so it was one of the highlights of the year.
That's the definition of volcano, mountain with big ass explosions.
Very true. I think the class was thinking of explosive poop though.
Well, look at this big ass explosion, we should probably run, probably.
When I was at EA, I was administering/supervising a midterm and some kid was obviously cheating off his phone. He was a nice guy and I was kind of just disappointed, so I said, dude, what the fuck? Out loud. I didn't get in trouble and the professor made up a specialized written exam in which he could earn the maximum of a passing grade instead of a 0 fail.
A kid in 9th grade was named Alan Fuchs. Teacher said Alan fucks. He agreed and whole class lost it.
The kid has a bright future ahead of him.
WTF else would he say? LOL.
I teach ESL primarily to adults, so my students are the ones who usually say inappropriate things on accident. It's pretty hilarious. One mixed up the words for forehead and foreskin and was telling me about how during a certain spa treatment she likes, they slowly drip warm oil on your foreskin.
I was teaching ESL in a primary school in France. One group of kids I taught had apparently only ever heard English in the confines of video games, so as I was walking them from their classroom to the ESL area, they would run ahead clearing the way with out of the way motherfucker. Swearing blindly they had no idea what it meant.
Not a teacher. 8th grade science class. We were pollinating flowers. Teacher stepped out of the classroom to talk to another teacher. She left the door cracked to hear us. I was right by the door and heard her say, look at them, they're having sex and not enjoying it. Thought it was the funniest shit I had heard in years, cause she was technically correct.
I had a teacher complaining about the interruption caused by photo day. He said to the class afterwards, I think I ruined the photographer's day. I told him to fuck off. I don't think he regretted saying that, though he was risking his job to do it. We all respected him enough that nobody had any motivation to report it.
What grade per year were you in?
It was maybe 3 decades ago. I no longer remember.
Things were a lot different 3 decades ago. Do that shit now and kids already put it on Snapchat and job is gone by next week.
I teach 11th graders. One of my students took my stapler off my desk and tried to staple his hand. The staple ended up falling out of the stapler and sliding off his skin harmlessly. Without thinking, I remarked, weak ass. Several students overheard me, and now one of them loves to say, to quote Miss Glacial Spice Rack, weak ass.
I teach 2nd grade and was reading Ramona the Pest aloud to my class. In the story, Ramona dresses up for Halloween as a witch and repeatedly says, I'm the baddest witch in the whole wide world. Well, I effed up and accidentally read it as I'm the baddest bitch in the whole wide world. Luckily only one 2nd grader caught on. She gasped, her mouth dropped open, and her eyes got huge. I had to call her mom and tell her what had happened. Luckily the mom was cool and laughed really hard at me.
Ramona. The bad bitch.
Not a teacher, but my French teacher tried to get us to say something about the leg in French and he lifted up his leg and his pants ripped.
I had a college professor that always had VPL, and it was definitely on purpose, since he'd stand crossing his legs in a way that enhanced it. He was definitely proud of it, that's for sure.
I'm curious to know what you're using VPL as an abbreviation for here, cause it doesn't sound like you're referring to a panty line?
No. Sorry, visible penis line, basically he was presenting all the time.
The D on my keyboard would get stuck. I had misspelled something I had projected on the whiteboard. They mentioned a word was misspelled. I claimed it was because my D doesn't work.
I teach high school freshman English. Once a student asked me how to spell analysis. I said anal, y, cis. Then, before I even knew what was coming out of my mouth, I said anal, y, cis. The class fell out laughing. They never told on me, and they never ever forgot how to spell analysis.
In one of my upper-level classes, mainly seniors and juniors, a kid walks in and says the classic "Mister, can we have an off day and do nothing?" I very naturally and without hesitation said the following: "No, I never have off days. I'm always turned on."
I wasn't the teacher, but had one who had a slip-up. It was in high school during a study hall, free period. We were hanging out in a class with one of the friendlier and cooler teachers. Some people were talking about Catholic school or something and basically on the topic of physical punishments. One girl said she was glad she had never been spanked as a child and would hate it. Our teacher focused purely on what she was doing. Casually just says, "It gets better with age," and then immediately shouts, "You didn't hear that," realizing what hole she had just dug herself into. It was pretty funny and a genuine mistake. I felt bad for how embarrassed she got.
My grade 8s thought they were a tough class, and I wanted to say that they were pussycats, but I called them pussies instead. I apologized and they didn't tell.
My French teacher once got upset at us and shouted,
"Mangez-vous le maire des morts?"
at us, then got very sad when we knew what she had just said.
Eat shit and die?
My 7th grade science teacher would walk around the room a lot while lecturing. One time he sat down at an empty desk that just happened to have, through a good BJ call, 555 beep 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 beep, carved into the wood. He glanced at it and says, "Ooh, a blowjob."
Today we will be learning about biological orgasms. Sorry, organisms.
Not a teacher, but a student. Back when I was in like 9th grade, we were doing a lesson on the volcano, and our teacher decided to do a diagram to show us what it looked like. It was a dick. The volcano he drew looked like a very detailed dick. He was a super strict teacher, so I watched as every face in the room turned totally red, trying not to laugh. After about 5 seconds of this, he took a step back, looked at what he drew, and just said, "You can laugh. But it's still a helpful diagram, I want you all to draw it in your notebook." And that's the story of how my entire 9th grade science class drew a detailed drawing of a dick in our notebooks.
Not a teacher, but my music teacher in middle school got fired for saying to a girl, "What's wrong with you? Are you on your period or something?"
A teacher of mine dropped this gem. Too good not to tell. High school geography teacher starts teaching us about rivers and their relation to soil erosion. He told us about once having a riverside cottage. About how if he lived to be 200 he might see it fall into the river. He's quiet for a second and then says, "Ex-wife got that in the divorce though, so I couldn't give a shit if it floated down river today."
A student in my high school English class was complaining that she didn't have time to do the assigned work because she had AP exam prep work to do for another class. Teacher said,
"Look, you'll have to find time to do it after Mr. J fills you with a penis."
lining up 5th graders after recess and they wouldn't stop bouncing the rubber playground balls. Cue me yelling, "Everyone, hold on to your balls."
I was teaching about binomial probabilities in a statistics class. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this, in these probability experiments there are two outcomes labeled success and failure. There are a few other criteria, too. The classic example is flipping a coin. I write on the board, let success equal getting head.
Student 1 says something out of turn. Student 2.
Shut the fuck up.
You shut the fuck up.
Me, how about you both shut the fuck up? I didn't think before I said it. Instant regret. I signed a letter of reprimand that day. It's been years, but I'm sure it's still haunting my personnel file.
You did the right thing.
Oh, Lord. I was reading aloud from Lord of the Flies. My brain had a fender bender between the words conk and hunt. Yes, I said cunt in front of 25 teenagers.
I have a few, but as a teacher of high school freshmen, I think the worst was okay, everyone get in your threesomes when talking about groups of 3.